It looks like
Doug, good morning.
are we rocking and rolling or what?
I'm trusting we are.
I think
I'm
we are
trusting we
too.
are.
Yeah,
Plans are subject to change. I know that.
Libby says we're good, and so that type of vote of confidence just makes me feel great.
Hmm.
So the
Mm-mm-mm.
disclaimer, yeah, things change, and we're going to talk about our opinions, share our opinions with you, and might even get into the market a little bit. I'll go ahead and end this, Keith.
From our conversation last week, Doug,
Yeah.
I had a quote that came to mind. It was something like uh, gaslighting
Mm.
leads the uh, truth to become a conspiracy theory, and that what I was thinking about that over the week is that the way that we're kind of trained by our kind of culture over the last 3 or 4 years is to be less honest. Like if you're thinking something, be afraid to say it, kind of like the emperor's new clothes. And so that's it's a weird idea that you're hedged from saying what you believe. Whereas if you're a loving and a caring person, you should be able to say anything you want and say it in love rather than feel like I can't even say this because it might offend somebody. But that was last week. This week, the offensive thing is that plans get disrupted.
Yeah, they definitely do. I mean, last time you went on a trip, how about right now? You wanted to stay near a river town, right? And yeah, you just weren't able to do that. There were no rooms, no rooms in the inn, and so you had to pivot. And pivot is one of my favorite words. It's a word that I was not a basketball player or anything like that, but I like the idea of just saying, "Hey, look, I see what's coming, or I didn't see that, and now it's time to take take a different position."
Yeah, I was originally going to name this week's conversation as when your plan implodes or crumbles, and I started
Mm.
thinking about it and said when your plan expands is what I came up with because we've talked about this a number of times that modern financial planning is just it's an academic exercise. There is absolutely no way to plan all the variables of your life. And I just, came up with some ideas of how at any point in your existence, your plan isn't going to be what you thought it was. So, like the US Census Bureau says that there's 7.1 million grandchildren that live with their grandparents. And in other words, 2.3 million grandparents are raising or responsible for their grandchildren. I'm guessing most of those 2.3 million people didn't plan that.
Right. Yeah.
One of the other data points I picked up was that the National Cancer Institute says the average age for the first cancer diagnosis is 66. That hit our house at 56 for Connie, and that was very disruptive for me. I'm not talking about just the idea. I'm just saying the mental disruption for me when Connie was diagnosed with cancer was really hard, um, and and so the things that can disrupt your plans um, maybe aren't now you can't navigate around them. You can't say, well, it's going to go back to normal. This may be the new normal.
When your plan expands, there are there's opportunity for the cycles of grief because what you thought was going to happen or how you thought things were going to look, that part does die, and it's okay to be frustrated by that and shed some tears over it. Um, and then after a while, there's some time where planning can begin again, and the expanse can start. And I would imagine anyone watching this, there's probably people in various different parts of that plan.
Yeah, that first step is denial. And I remember when we thought there was a problem with Connie's health. And I just didn't want to accept what I was hearing, if that makes sense. And I would go to the next step of my anger. I would go to the woods where I run and walk, and I would just kind of have some loud conversations with God about what I thought about that. I don't know. I don't remember if I don't recall really bargaining about that. Just the frustration, and I don't generally go to the levels of depression that I've gone in my younger days, but like sadness is probably more of an expression of me than depression today. And there was a point though, you gotta get yourself up, dust yourself off and say, this is my new normal. This this is where I'm at. This is the expansion of my plans. And so with that, it just put me in a whole different mindset. I gained, new acquaintances and friends at the chemotherapy centers and things like that, the nurses and all the doctors and things like that. But it was not the plan I had. And at that moment when we were walking through that, it didn't matter how much wealth we had accumulated. Like how much wealth do you need to make you at peace with that situation? And so modern financial planning didn't matter to me at that point in time, even though that's what I help people do.
A good friend of ours has really just been speaking life into me. He said, anxiety are if-when statements projected into the future. And I've been really thinking about that recently. And so if you have some if-when statements into the future, what do you do with them? And yet you might go get some exercise out in the woods to get the right chemicals going upstairs so that you can get together with your trusted advisor or get together with your family members and just have an honest powwow session over a dry erase board like the one behind me, where you list out, hey, here's the if and whens, and also here's the baseline, here's where we're at, right, here's what we know. And if you can get to the facts, and you, Keith, I'm a feelings guy, or maybe like my Earth suit is like a feelings recovery type guy. And so if you can get to the facts and do those with as little emotion as possible, you can begin to expand what those plans might look like.
I I I have no mechanical bone in my body. I can logic my way through the mechanics of things. Like I can kind of understand conceptually what might be going on. But if it's de determinate, like if it's dependent on me to cause something that's not working to work, you're going to have to wait a long time or wait for me to get somebody to come fix it. It's not happening. And so for me to choose to RV probably 100,000 miles was kind of a leap of faith. And what I discovered, and I'll show you all a picture, probably about 2/3 the way through our RVing experience, was when the plan is expanded, you need to take a selfie. I was in this one, I wasn't taking a selfie. I just took a picture. This was the RV we were traveling in at this point in time, Doug. It was, I don't know if you used that one or not, but it was a wonderful rig.
Yeah, I love that one, man. It
Yeah,
makes
we
me
had a lot
happy
of
looking
fun.
at it.
Yeah, you see the two windows there on the side there where it says Independence. Those are bunk beds. The kids would climb in there, look out that window while you're going down the road. And what this looks like, it looks like a wonderful after, probably morning ride on the Alaskan Canadian highway there. But if you see that black truck in front of it, it's passing us, and then there's a line of traffic down the hill there. The reason we're being passed at that moment is that the front passenger tire had a blowout, and we're stuck right there on this road that is probably 10 miles from the closest city to the south of us, and 90 miles. I think the cities were 100 miles apart. So your worst case is you're 50, and they're not even cities, they're burgs or whatever, but you're 50 miles from a solution. Worst case if you get to the halfway point, but we were 10 miles from a solution. But what I didn't, and we had planned, we put a $5,000 budget in this plan for repairs. Like we had planned gas money, we planned everything we could think to plan, but we didn't have a satellite telephone because we thought about it, but the cost was kind of prohibitive. And so what happened in that picture was I had really sketchy cell service, like to call the AAA, which we had AAA towing that would tow an RV. But it didn't occur to me I wouldn't be able to get a hold of them, right? And so I'm walking along the road trying to find a place to get cell service to be able to hear the Canadian AAA to get the RV towed. And once I got a hold of them, there was a pressure that came off of me.
Yeah.
And
Calvary was on the way.
yeah, but then there was a revelation that this plan has to expand, because guess what you can't do if you're in that particular situation?
Tell me.
You can only get one person in a tow truck. So we had 6 other humans that we didn't have a plan for. Like, how do we get them to where the tow truck's going to be? And so in the middle of nowhere, I had to find a taxi cab to get the other 6 humans back to where the person riding it. And so you could spend your life not getting on the Alcan highway because of all the possibilities that could go wrong, or you could learn to expand your plan.
Hey Keith, what was the name of that RV again?
Independence.
Is that the truth?
It was the exact opposite. If you're going to RV, you are at the dependent of so many. I learned to be more dependent on others. Like you can't even imagine how dependent you are on others. And I think what kind of prompted this conversation, Doug, was one of our friends we were talking to. And I think a lot of you guys that are our friends you may be struggling with this idea, but the idea is, what if my person doesn't become president? What kind of major decisions do I have to make? What kind of variables do I have to change? And my friend was anxious about things, and they had everything that I could think of lined up. And I could see the desperation still in their face, and they're in a wonderful position economically. And I said, the only thing I think you could do differently is just be kind to more people and generous to more people. Because if things would do what you think they're going to do, if the world's going to come to an end economically, the quantifiable things aren't the ones that are going to matter. It's the quality of life things that you've done along the way that will help one another. And I was explaining to her some economic history of the 1930s, and hobos would literally come to people's back doors, and people would feed them a meal because they didn't have any food. And that seems kind of condescending and beneath people, but you and I and the people that are watching have no control of what's going to happen in the big picture of the economy. And we can make the best decision we can make, but we can't prevent that kind of economy from happening. And so to spend all your time fretting that means you're not living.
I've got a lot to learn about joy in life, and joy can be present in good times and bad. That's one thing I know to be true about joy. But our good friend Wes, Keith likes to buy a bunch of books, guys. If you ever are thinking, what should I read? Get a hold of Keith, and he's got some. I mean, Keith, what'd you buy? 52 copies of this book, How to
I
Stop
only
Work.
bought 10 because they smell like
I
my
just
grandma's
I just
basement.
give it.
I probably would have if they didn't smell so bad, but they're all musty smelling. So
I just love
yeah.
to give Keith a hard time when I can. There's not too many opportunities to pick on him, guys, and so we take advantage of it when we can. But Keith bought a whole bunch of. You're a Dale Carnegie fan, right? I mean, you are just.
His training helped me as a young man, as an introvert, how to live better. I'm still an introvert. I can just manage it better because of Carnegie's teaching.
So our good friend Wes, this is another book we have for you if you're interested. Joy. The book is about joy, and a little story time here. Joy is a reminder that even when things are unstable, it's probably going to be okay. And that's just a really good word during that instability. And it's not a word that you want to hear during that time. But if you're around someone who has joy in their heart, just even their presence exudes confidence, and it's transferable to somebody who needs it in the moment. I think
And,
that's the antidote uh, to
yeah,
to those dependent times.
you know, we've got, and if any of you know people like this, you know, I read you the statistics, how many grandparents are raising their grandkids. If you know anybody like that, we want to cheer those folks on, and because in those kind of situations, it's probably not what you planned. And I talked to one of my friends in that scenario, and the idea was you could get bitter or you could get better. Like you could have a new plan based on the new variables. We have one of our friends that when they kind of got to the point where they finished raising their children and they started thinking, what's the next stage of life? What they concluded was, you know, the thing we liked the best was was our children. And in their early 50s, they opted to add a new child to their life. And she's in college now, but their lives stirred me to open my mind to a better plan. And really what I think what like modern financial planning has made the plan very narrow, right? Like this is what it should look like. And it's not going to look like that. And so
No.
the more you can prop your thoughts open and say, wait, what do I really want in life? What are the things? And this family, what they want is to express love to more people. And most wouldn't add a child to their life in their 50s because it just takes a lot of energy. And but if you think about what you really want and circumstances have shifted, maybe you can find a new want.
Yeah, a new want to, like, this is what stokes my fire about life today.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it maybe wasn't what I originally wanted, you know, it wasn't.
Or not
um
even on the radar.
yeah,
Most of the time, that's it. It's not even on the radar.
I didn't want to sit in that cancer treatment center. I didn't want to do that, but I did. I found joy in the midst of it. I learned things about life that I wouldn't have known by not sitting there. And that's the truth about life is most of the joy I have today is a result of walking through those things I didn't want to do. Like I didn't walk, if I never walked through things I didn't want to walk through, I would probably be stuck in a like under this table that like I'd be afraid of everything. But because I've walked through things I didn't want to walk through, I'm not afraid to walk through difficult things. And I think as I've dropped I think 4 out of the 5 of my kids off at college, the universities, when that event happens, unfortunately, are bombarded by helicopter parents who don't want bad things to happen to their kids, and they explain stuff that I would get up and leave those meetings because I'm like, I don't need to. This is the stuff my kids need to navigate. I don't need. I'm not helping them with these things if they go wrong. They don't need to call me because they are adults, and so that unfortunately I think is the cult. I don't think people want their which I understand. I don't want my kids to go through difficult times, but how else are they going to find their way to joy?
Yeah, I'm living that right now, and I got to tell you, I'm really enjoying this beginning of the new chapter of college. And for me, it was like a switch flipped. I should have seen it coming,
Right.
but but I didn't. I just didn't, guys, in so many ways. And so when that switch did flip, it began a new chapter, and I'm really enjoying the release. Took a while for me to get there. It started by talking about it, started by thinking about it, by praying about it, by testing the waters with it, by having some apologies. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm leaning in. I'm trying to take control. This is yours, and you got what it takes to do it. That's probably half of it. It's just having somebody tell you, "Hey, look, you got what it takes to do this. You are made for this moment in time right now."
Right. As I was preparing for our conversation this morning, I talked to one of our friends who he and his wife have, well, they've raised already one of their grandchildren, and they have 2 more right now that they've had for 17 months. And I think they had less than an hour's notice that they were going to be in charge of these kids. And so you could imagine the grieving process that would go on in your head, the anger and all these things. But what he told me today is if you want to find life, you got to take the road less traveled. And that's not a road a lot of people
Oh
have
man.
traveled. And in his early 60s, he's finding joy in the midst of that. And I would give you another personal example. A year ago, Kristen, my daughter, moved out of the apartment directly behind where Doug's sitting. And the reason she moved out is probably 16 months earlier, she had brain surgery and had a tumor removed right here. And she had been thinking that she might want to live in a sunnier place. And she realized, I only have a certain amount of time on this planet. We don't know how, none of us know how much, but she packed up, uh, probably not with my cheering her, you hate to see your kids live, and moved to Phoenix. And within, it'll only be 15 months from the day she left here, she will have found the love of her life and be married in Phoenix. And who knew that that surgery would have prompted her to make the decision she made that made her, like, she could have been bitter about that whole situation, but as a 25-year-old, she decided to live. I don't know how much more extreme to say, like, when your plan expands, that was nowhere in her plan, I don't think. And we're thrilled that her plan has expanded. We didn't like that we had to get through the difficulties we did for her to be where she is today, but it's amazing to me.
Well, if you find yourself in a place where your plan is expanding, way to think of it differently, Keith. That's what's one of your things. Think differently. When your plan crumbles, or instead, when your plan expands, I hope you have my cell phone number. I hope you have
Yeah, mine
Keith's cell
too.
phone number.
Yeah,
Yeah, it can be 2 a.m., whatever. Send us a call, and
yeah.
we we want to be there for you.
My
And
plan is not expanding right now, Doug. That's why I'm smiling so big right now. Like, when it's expanding, my face has a different
yeah,
disposition to it. Eventually, when you get through that grieving process, I think it's a grieving, like the loss of my former plan is a grieving process. And there, Corey Ten Boom there was a movie about her in the day called the Hiding Place. You can watch it today. It's really thought provoking, but she said something like, I've learned to grip things in my life uh, more loosely because it hurts when God pulls my fingers off of
mm,
it. And I think that's the disadvantage of clinging too tightly to your plan, because it does hurt when it goes off the rails and it expands, and it hurts your soul. And so just learning to grab a little looser to your plans would probably be helpful. Doug, what do you
hey,
think about this? What do you think about this crazy market?
I think this is the most telegraphed potential rate cut that's known to man. And so it'll be interesting to see how markets respond to it. There's a lot of dynamics going on, and some of them are known, some of them are unknown. But what we do know is we know where the prices are today. And so I wanted to just we're going to switch gears to just a real quick market update for you all. And I'm going to switch gears. Keith, I don't know if you can see this or not. There's a bunch of squiggly lines on this chart.
I can.
And what this is just a quick look at the 10-year treasury. And as you can see, the 10-year has been on a decline. This is the interest rates. And so not that long ago in April, on a 10-year note, you're looking at 4.7 yield. Today, you're looking at a 3.6. And so what that tells me is that the market is saying, hey, look, we think rate cuts are coming. And so how will that affect things? How will that affect your portfolios and markets? If we look at the Dow Jones, put a picture up of the Dow Jones index. These are just 30 companies, but they're a great indication of what's going on in our economy and the stock market. And we've had really a nice steady uptick since October of last year. We've had some pullbacks that have been tricky in the spring. We went through one here recently, a pullback that, it could have kept going. Now it's trying to rally back. And so I've been really encouraged in the last couple of days just to see some new life coming in the market. And it, I I think what's trying to happen is the stock market is trying to expand its rally from October. In October, a lot of those, tech stocks, um, well-known household name stocks, those started the race. And what it's trying to do right now is just broaden the depth of that. That's how I see it. How do you see it?
Well, I think my gut is that the market is very emotional right now. Just even talking to our clients and people on both sides of the aisle and their unique personalities and thoughts about the political environment, and the market will probably remain a little skittish. I would guess maybe at least middle of November or longer. Who knows?
Forever?
Uh, well, the short term volatility probably will be uh, the people that have a reason to be anxious. They'll know which way they want to be anxious as of probably the middle of November. I'm saying the middle of November. I don't know when the election results are going to. We've had a lot of craziness with elections the last 20 years or so. So we'll see what that looks like. But that this fear and greed are what drive the market, and the unknown is a thing that brings volatility to it. So what people want to know is who's going to be the next president, and um, and then there's less unknown at that point. And then I think once people know who it is, then you'll probably start to even see some of the institutions moving large blocks of money around to where they think that money will be best treated under the new administration. So a lot of the jockeying going on now is people kind of making a hypothesis of what they think is going to happen in the election.
Yeah, and the arrow that I drew, if you've been watching this show, you know that was the day that the Japanese market really took it in the chin, and so we followed suit, and the volatility just shot up to records that we haven't seen, and thankfully it came right back down. But to Keith's point, this screen here is a measure of the ups and downs. And right now, if it's lower, we like to see that. And right now, it's trending really in a good spot. And so we'll see. We've got earnings, we've got political pressures, we've got interest rates, and I think it'll be interesting to see who the winner is of all this. And there's some jockeying around. I don't know if that's the home builders. I don't know if that's the high tech or the dividend folks. But one thing that will tell us is the market itself. So quick market update from us. And if you have concerns or questions about your own money in your own portfolio, if we're managing it, give us a call. If we're not managing it, give us a call.
I'd say one thing, practically you might take a look at if you're used to getting high money market rates like we've had for the last several months, and you've got money you're not planning on using in the short term, that those interest rates on those money markets, if rates begin to get cut, those rates are going to drop down. And so you may want to look at maybe some extending the maturity on some certificates or deposits or things like that, so you can, at least for the near term, take some of that safe money and get it put into a little higher kind of locked in rate. Just a thought.
Good word, Keith. Well, hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. I hope you all have a great weekend. Keith, any closing remarks?
No, I think it's an honor to help you all when you are rethinking when your plan expands, to be here for you, to help you see the world from the glass is greater than half empty. It's full as it can be, and you can make the most even out of challenging times.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week.